Today's episode with Kathy White is amazing. I know that I was originally intimidated. I hadn't met her, and I know she's a good friend of yours. And I was intimidated by her credentials. I mean, it's just from Brigadier General to being a regent at U of M. She's a very bright, accomplished person, and yet it was wonderful. She's warm, engaging. Her smile was beautiful. And I had a great time talking to Kathy.
And again, such an accomplished person. You think, really, you want to be on this podcast? She made time for us. And the story that she told about how she uses, not used past tense, but uses the book with her colleagues and how she intends to use it with another team is very cool, inspiring. And I can't wait to see what happens from that.
You know, there's a couple things she noted. One, that there was 30 chapters, which we intentionally did. And then we backed off that messaging. Not everybody wants to have something to do every day, but her and her team are using that as a, chapter 5 on December 5th or on November 5th. And I think that was a great use, but I loved the way she described the illustration for that section of the book that is Be Your Own Son.
Yeah.
She takes the time, and for anyone that hasn't seen the actual page, it's a beautiful illustration of a sweet dog, YOLO, actually, fashioned after your dog, and under an umbrella through someone pouring salt on the environment. And yet that dog is happy and warm and basking in sunlight. And she realized how intentional that picture was, and she talks about it in such detail. And it was a good reminder for us.
And that is the idea, which is, let's take away something from this. Every single podcast for me, for this one, it's, be your own son. Let that image stick with me because I can remember it vividly, no matter what. And also, what day is it? Oh, today's the 4th. It Show Someone You Care Day. So let the chapter and the date remind us to do the next right thing. Without further ado, here is Kathy White. I am so thrilled that we have Kathy White as our guest for our Be the Sun, Not the Salt podcast. Connie, you don't know Kathy, and I hope you'll get to know her. She is an amazing person. I'll talk about her accomplishments and her pedigree and who she is in a moment. But Connie, I want to introduce you to my dear friend, Kathy White.
Hi, Kathy. It's really nice to meet you.
A pleasure to meet you.
You come with all these credentials and all of these great accomplishments, and yet the first thing I notice is this beautiful smile and the warmth and patience you've exuded since you joined us while we work on all the technical stuff today. So thank you for that.
Pleasure.
Yeah, that's who she is. So for those that don't know who Kathy White is, she is a Brigadier General in the National Guard. She's a University of Michigan Regent. She is a law professor at Wayne State. She is a graduate of Princeton University and several other degrees, including a White House fellowship. An extremely busy and accomplished person, but most importantly, a wonderful human being. I gave her a copy of Be the Sun, Not the Salt a couple of years ago, and she just loved it. And within the last year, Kathy, you asked, could I get 10 copies? And I never followed up with you and said, what did you ever do with those 10 copies? So I'm going to ask you, what do you like about Be the Sun, Not the Salt? How is it useful to such an accomplished person, such a bright and well-meaning and achieving person? And why did you agree to do this podcast?
That was a lot of questions all up front.
I really enjoy this book that you've written and also your TED Talk. So part of what drove me to ask for the book was I was going on a retreat with the group of people who I'm the director. This is in the Army National Guard. It's actually joint. It's the joint staff of the U.S. National Guard. And we have both Air Force and Army personnel working together every day. And one thing that I was really shocked by was the culture of me being Army and working with people from the Air Force. We don't necessarily speak the same language. You can misunderstand someone's reaction. And so I thought to bring people together at a retreat, I really needed to find a way for us to be able to communicate better with each other. And then I thought of your book. So I started with the TED Talk, and they loved that. And then I handed out your book to everybody. And we kind of went through how it works. Every day there's a tip. And I started going through each one. And then we got to, can I show a piece of this?
Yes, of course. Yeah.
My very favorite part of the book. And I mean, hopefully you can see this. Can you see this picture? little
Yeah.
higher.
Mhm.
Said,
Yeah. And
it
for
says,
anyone,
be
yeah, for anyone
your,
that's just
Yeah.
listening, yeah, it's just be your own
It says, be your
son.
own son. And I
Yeah.
can describe that the picture. So the book is organized where each day is a thought to think about. And this is the beginning of the chapter, Be Your Own Son. And there's a picture depicting a person holding a yellow umbrella, sheltering a very cute dog from this salt shaker that is raining down salt all over that would be hitting the dog if it weren't for the umbrella, trying to ruin the poor dog's day. And the yellow umbrella is emitting these rays of sun over the dog. So the dog is having a sunny day, even though the salt is raining all around it. And this illustration really captures what it means to me, right? When you say, be your own son. And I really wanted to make sure that my team realized that even when things are very difficult, you can yourself be your own son. For me, when I walk outside and experience a beautiful sunny day, I can feel the rays, on my skin, and the temperature's perfect. I feel the ability to be appreciative and happy and have grace.
Mhm.
But when the weather's not so good, I don't necessarily feel that way.
Harder.
It's much harder.
Mhm.
So then I just say to myself, I'm having a sunny day. I'm having a sunny day, and my spirits get lifted up when I think about it.
I'm so thrilled I didn't know any of this and that I'm discovering this for the first time. I'm so thrilled to appreciate that illustration and the meaning of that illustration. We were very intentional about how we designed this to remind us, Kathy, that all it takes is a shift in our own perspective. The cover of the book is designed to remind us of the exact same thing. Salt on the roots kill the organism. Sun makes it thrive. The metaphor is to take care of ourselves and not do the things that hurt ourselves or others. So your point is beautiful. Did the 10 people, all these accomplished military people, did they get it useful?
Oh, they love this book. And it's really because I'm the only one that's not there full time. I'm a part-time National Guardsman. And I come in once a week per month. And I come in from Ann Arbor, where I live, to DC because I go to both. I've got to see the Air Force people. I got to see the Army people. But the thing is they say, do you know what today is? And they'll give me one of our things like day 25, decide what matters most. And they'll
No kidding.
Yeah, they'll talk about it. It's so great.
Love that.
This is beyond amazing to me. Here's what's amazing. Not that they get it and they find it useful, that it's out there in the world doing some good, that these people
and we don't always hear that.
We don't hear it. I didn't know this. I love that people are finding their own way. Hey, you know what today is? Day 25, chapter 20, whatever it is, today's the day to do good, or keep perspective, or take the high road, or, be good company, keep good company. These little baby reminders. How cool is that? This is such a great idea. This idea of what day is it?
Absolutely.
There's 30 days in a month. You pull out, it's chapter 6. It's what today? Today's 4. Is today? Whatever. It's
any order. Yeah.
Or yeah. But number 4, if you start on 1, it would be remember how you make people feel. You should show people that you care. You know what I mean? This is such good, simple, remindy stuff, Kath. So, triple thank you to you. And am I brilliant for inviting you on the podcast, or what, Connie?
Jeez. Well, I was just going to say the fun thing is I already know what kind of thank you gift we can give Kathy now.
More books.
Oh my God.
We're having umbrella. Well, we'll get you more books for sure, but we also are making umbrellas that are black on the outside, gold on the inside, that say "Being my own son."
That's a great idea.
So when you hold it, that's what's. Yeah. So you'll be one of the first, because those are in production or opening a store, and I think that's going to be one of the fun ones for us that are very good reminder to your point.
Totally. And I get impressed when really intelligent, accomplished people find this simple stuff highly, highly useful. Princeton and law professor and regent and brigadier general, and yet still the simplicity of it you find helpful.
Well, Harry, the thing that really, really is important for me is the pick your battles discussion in that chapter,
Mhm.
because I
Mm.
spend most of my life, as you mentioned in my bio, right, in the Army and also working for large public universities. And these organizations, no matter how great they are, they're huge bureaucracy. And you can get worn
Mhm.
down by the processes needed to undertake a task and so forth. And this idea of pick your battles, you know, you can't blame people for the processes that have been in place. They have a job to do. And what I've also taught my team is sometimes if you're fighting a battle and you're really having a difficult time and they're not saying yes, I always tell them, well, they may not have the authority to say yes.
Mm.
And you need to
Mm.
communicate with them, right? This is again
Mhm.
how important it is to, be warm and generous and giving. Practice. You have that, you talk about practice,
Mhm.
practice, practice on day 28. Practice how you're treating people well. And if you do that, it comes like a second nature, right?
Mhm.
Isn't that true, Kath? I mean, look, I met you and felt that way about you from the moment I met you.
Mhm.
You're warm and welcoming and good human being from the get-go. Now, I met your parents, so I see where it comes from. But I mean, were you always like this? And does this help you to be a smidgen
I
better?
was not anything like this.
Really?
So, when I read the chapter practice, 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 I was realizing that when I hear the word
Wow.
practice, when I was younger, I was a varsity athlete. And as a kid and teenager, I played the flute. And practice was always something that you had to do to get better and stronger and more versatile. But it was always a physical thing or somehow talent based on some type of ability to play something, not treating
Mhm.
people. I never considered how I practice my emotions or how I feed emotions through practice. It was always physical, be mentally strong to physically drive yourself. So I never thought that if I practiced irritation or if I practiced being judgy, right, or having judgment and
Oh,
anger,
yeah.
right, that those qualities get stronger. Whereas if you,
Yep.
practice kindness and wisdom and goodness, those get stronger. And so I remember in your chapter, you talk about you got to choose sides. So you got to pick good over evil. You got to pick kindness over cruelty. You got to pick wisdom over ignorance. And so it's always a struggle for everyone to make sure we're picking something positive. But when you realize that you're feeding yourself when you pick the wrong thing, it just poisons you as opposed to making you more healthy and happy.
Wow. So, I mean, I'm absolutely beyond thrilled that you articulated what you just said. I feel like, okay, my work is done, Kath. Take it from here. Now,
Exactly.
seriously. Okay,
So
you
well
got
done.
it.
Yeah.
You got it. Now, your job, I'm anointing you. You must spread this to the world from your perch. But so I know you're going to no matter what, but I really need you to be helping to teach, model, preach, practice, and live this so that this community grows.
Oh, that would be great.
We are locked in arms to get this very simple message so that more people get it.
Mhm.
You end your emails with this amazing quote: "We must take sides. Silence encourages the tormentor, never the tormented." Elie Wiesel, 1960. Why did you choose to end your emails with that quote?
Well, I started ending my emails with this quote. I'm trying to remember, but it was somewhere along the line where I felt that our country was kind of not speaking up enough. And Elie Wiesel was a Holocaust survivor, and he was a child when I think he was in Auschwitz, and wrote about his experience. And I remember reading his writings, and that quote really hit me that if you're silent, you're only enabling those who are the oppressors. You must speak up. Silence in the face of evil just enables more evil. So that's why I picked that.
I mean, it's powerful. Well, can you do it with kindness? Can you do it while still being the son? My belief is that we can. My belief is that standing up to evil and injustice and disrespect and unkindness and incivility, we can do that being heliotropic. We
Agreed.
don't have to become, okay.
Well, the
So,
first thing, sometimes we misunderstand people. So you talk about on day 8, this assume positive intent.
Mhm.
And I think I try to practice that most often today because, as I mentioned, I'm working with people from the Air Force, which have a kind of a different culture. And you can assume that there's a bad intent there. And over time, I've found in life, it's just easier to assume good intentions by everyone. Not everyone has them. But if you make that
mhm.
assumption, you'll be able to learn and listen. And you cannot learn if you're not listening.
It sounds like, for the way you described it, you brought a common language to the table by bringing the books. So you started with a common denominator of how we could talk about how we treat each other, which sounds like it got you off to a really good start.
It has. The culture has changed significantly for the better. It's always a work in
Good.
progress. But
Good.
what I have found is that people talk about, okay, this happened. This is how I feel. I'm not saying you made me feel this way. This is how I feel.
Mhm.
Maybe how I feel is not, appropriate in a work setting. I probably should have a stronger whatever, but that's how I feel. And I just want to move forward. Can we talk about this? And that's huge. I think about in relationships. If
Yeah.
people did that in their personal relationships at
Mhm.
all, how that would
Mhm.
really work.
I know. Well, if we all did this more, we'll make our lives better, our relationships better, our professional lives better, the outcomes better. And
Mhm.
it's the practice and modeling of this from our various positions, wherever they might be in leadership or wherever they might be. It will make things better. What I love about what you are saying is that you take full responsibility for practicing this, for
Mhm.
imbibing this, for using this. This isn't about other people need to get this, Kathy. You said that you didn't used to be as sweet, kind, and wonderful. I love that you can say that. It's hard for me to believe,
Me too.
but I believe you. Being a driven, accomplished person, I
Mhm.
could imagine that you had your elbows out at times.
Yes.
But I don't mind that you're continually learning at this age and stage, the more mature you are. Let's help people get this sooner if we
Yeah.
can.
Was there an event or a trigger that kind of started this evolution for you, Kathy?
Well, I think when I kind of realized that not everything is a zero sum game,
Mm.
I think sometimes we're taught to throw farther, jump higher, run fast. And there's a first, and then the second person's the first loser, right? That's how I was.
Yeah. Mhm.
Yep.
And
Mhm.
so, that kind of perfectionism, it can be wearing. It can really, really wear you down. And you can start, and I mean, I should say not press this out to
Yeah.
others, but
Yeah.
so I have been very accomplished, but I wanted to enjoy the journey and not always think about the next goal, right? I'm trying to accomplish the next
Yeah.
goal. And when I'm developing good habits physically, like doing yoga, where you got to focus every day on something, and why can't I do that, in my personality, right? Habits are habits.
Mhm.
Make good ones, instead of making bad ones.
Mhm.
So I guess that's what happened. I realized that, or I can't separate my professional life from my personal life. And although, when you're at work, these are not your friends, that doesn't mean that you don't have a positive relationship, understanding people who you work with,
Mhm.
caring about their well-being should be high on your priority list, because you can't actually work well together without that. If I don't know that people have my best interest at heart, it's hard to give a lot to that job or that
Mhm.
activity.
Yeah. I want the world to understand this and get this and practice this. And it starts with us. You clearly get it and practice it. This stuff is my life's work, and it feels so rewarding that a person of your accomplishment and attainment who lives in a world of high standards find it useful. Can we make it more appealing for people who might not fully appreciate what we're saying? I mean, we're all in agreement. So there's a military culture. If you're not first, you're a loser culture. There's a perfectionism culture. There's a, what do we care about people's feelings culture? all of that is just not healthy. Is there a way we can break through to those so that they can
Jump on board. Jump on board.
jump on
Well,
board?
just to be able to thrive, you know.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I think it's just trying to find a way to link like what I had to do, being accomplished with, if you want to be the best at something, you have to be not just the best at that thing. You have to be the best eater, the best sleeper, the best friend, the best, it's all these other things. And obviously, we all have frailties. We're not going to be perfect at everything, but it's more the effort, right? And there's so many things that you can do to be a good person by just listening to someone. Easy.
Mhm.
Just don't talk.
Yeah. No, I'm completely aligned with you. And my wish and hope, and you're going to do this because people will listen to certain people because of who they are or their status or their attainment or whatever. And so I'm hoping somebody listens to this and says, she might have some, I think she's on to something there. I mean, I couldn't agree with you more.
The one thing, Kathy, that could you point to that the team has really changed or fed off of each other during this time you're using the book?
Yeah, I think it's the assuming good intentions.
Nice.
We didn't have a real common language to talk with each other.
Nice.
That's the thing that's really worked.
To dig into this assume positive intent with you, Kathy, because it's something that I work at too, and you talked about it, and specifically in this group that you're working with now. Have you seen any reactions to it, like where you notice a big difference when you purposefully assume positive intent? Can you talk about that?
Yeah. So, like I said, we have this culture difference between the Army and the Air, and we're kind of separated geographically. So if we have troubles communicating, we have to get together. Can't, talk on Teams. You just need to face each other, see each other, and look each other in the eye. And that is a challenge because the Army are really in one part of the building, the Air on the other side. And then often there's some people in the Air who are in a different base altogether. So we have to make a trip out there. But that has made the biggest difference. I feel like when we travel, I'm going to bring my best self. It gives you that time. And it almost is building in a practice so that we're going to get together. And when we are together, we're going to be able to get to the bottom of how to work together. And the mission we're doing is together. So let's see it from all sides. And it also requires you to listen because we come at problems very different. The Army is always worried about the land. And then the Air Force sees things, bird's eye view, and they don't see boundaries the same way. And bringing that together is really fascinating.
Yeah, understanding those different perspectives was key to it. That's really interesting.
I will tell you, I still have work to do. My team is working very well together, and I think we've handled that very well. But other parts of my life, like I'm on the Board of Regents at Michigan, and that is a real different situation where you've got 8 people that come from all different backgrounds. We don't choose each other. And interacting in that environment is very different. And I have a lot of work there to listen more, to be more patient. And so my work is not done. I think I'm doing well everywhere else. This is my next place where I'm going to see how can I bring this practice to a different environment.
I love the challenge. We'll send you 8 more books, and I know some of those regents, and I know from which you speak, but your point is well taken. So Professor Kim Cameron we had on, and you know him well, he teaches at the University of Michigan, and he just filled our cup with the science behind this way of being, this being heliotropic and being a positive energizer does influence other people for the better. So to your mission, when you are working with the Board of Regents and you want to be such a powerful, effective heliotropic leader, you will be effective and they will be influenced by the way you are being. You're not being technique-y, you're being Kathy at her very best. Great listener, assuming positive intent, taking the high road, looking for win-win solutions, all of the very, very practical, good, mission-driven the regents want that. When people work better together, it's not an accident. You look at any great team or any board and you go, what is it? Well, people are bringing out the best in each other. And I think, Kath, I can't wait for you to influence them in such a wonderful way.
Well, I hope to be able to. Like I said, I have a lot of work to get there. But I think that's the next challenge, to be able to bring the best of me, and try to do it in all my environments. But it's a journey, right? It's a life journey.
Mhm.
And just like everything else, it takes practice, and you got to keep practicing.
Yeah. Exactly how we articulate it as a lifelong journey, a daily practice, and a moment-to-moment decision.
Oh, I like that.
It's that every day. Yeah, and it's something that I work at, because I'm naturally heliotropic, but I make a lot of mistakes still. And the things we learned from Kim was the discussion around relational energy, Harry. That was kind of one of our favorite things we talked about, is how you can get really exhausted in your life physically, emotionally, but this whole relationship thing, when you're working at it and people are giving it back to you, that energy doesn't deplete, and it gets better with practice for sure.
Oh, that's really interesting. I hadn't thought about it that way. The relational energy. That's fascinating.
He literally describes 4 types of energy. Physical energy gets depleted with use. Mental energy gets depleted with use. Emotional energy gets depleted with use. Relational energy increases with use when it's heliotropic.
Wonderful.
When you are isn't that wonderful? So to that end, as we influence our relationships, spouse, friends, colleagues, boards, customers, we can make the relationship energy get better by exuding and practicing heliotropic qualities. Good listening. This is not worth taking on. Seeking out a solution where we all win. Taking the high road. All these wonderful qualities. These are the things that we can tell stories about and reflect upon. And it'd be great, I don't know, maybe in a year we come back and say, so tell us some great stories about your work in some of the other aspects of your life where you've been practicing this and have seen some great results. I'll just tell you one. I mean, since I make this my life's work, I do get to practice this. Number one, with my wife, married 43 years.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You don't need to say everything you think. Is what's
I feel like
going
we
to
should
come
have
out.
a podcast with Jan. I'd like to do that.
Well, we could do that. Is what's going to come out of my mouth going to be helpful or not? I mean, that's such a great, it's like, just because it's true doesn't mean you need to say it. And how we say certain things, how I say certain things makes such a big difference. Here's one that is the most obvious that people are going to laugh at me. Like, just clean up, just do the dishes, just put the dishes away, just pick up my stuff. Now, these are things that you think, well, Harry, you should already know that. I do, but it's better when I do it versus knowing.
Oh, yes.
And so I'm hoping and wanting that the listeners of this podcast say, I could do so much better than I'm already doing. I'm good. I want to be a better fill in the blank. And that's what I think you have brought to us, Kathy, that you have a drive to be a better human being in your roles, your various roles. And just like when you were a varsity athlete or flautist or, a White House fellow, you bring a certain intensity of, man, could I be better? And I'm hoping it inspires and nudges and motivates other people to do the exact same.
Well,
that's my
I've
wish.
always been able to bring my best to my teaching. I've always been able to do that. I think it's more like teaching is really who I am, being a teacher. And for some reason, I've always been able to bring my best there. And I think when I did that, I said, how do I do this other places? Right. And I always felt really great about how I was able to educate and respond well to my students and always give them the best part of me. But I was not doing that everywhere else. And I think I felt like if I was giving a lot in one place, it was going to be depleted somewhere else. And I think people who I'm not a parent. I've been told that people who are parents, if you have more than one kid, you discover that love is infinite. But not every person without that, I think, knows that. And I feel like
Right.
I didn't realize that you can just be your best self everywhere. Just,
Oh,
Yeah.
oh, oh.
Yep.
Say, I mean, again, that realization, Kath, let it stay with you until your grave. Let it stay with you. Let other people hear this. We can be our best selves with everyone always. It's an infinite resource. Now, this is again a Kim Cameron thing. He says it. Love the best. You know what I mean? Yeah, you love your students. When you're teaching, the best teachers really love their students. And love is it's a resource that doesn't, there's no end to it. You can't run out of it. It's in whatever the word
no,
is.
it's infinite.
And
Yeah,
Kath,
it's infinite.
it's infinite. And I want, I've always wanted these podcasts to inspire me. And it's a good reminder what you just said, unlimited amount of love. We can do more good. We can be our best selves, more better to more people in every single capacity, including perfect strangers.
Oh, yes.
Including perfect strangers.
Well, doing something nice for a perfect stranger is often transformative, because I find that, like, if I help someone, just something that you think isn't that big a deal, but you take the chance to do something that's kind of out of your way, but you help someone. It's like the next day when I need something, there's somebody, hi, can I help you? That's nice.
How'd that happen? Yeah.
I mean, I need to do this more to help people, because you're just so relieved when you're lost or something, and somebody's helping
you. Feel so good when you get it. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great.
Totally. I mean, chapter 1 is do all the good you can in all the ways you can to all the people you can, as long as ever you can. And if I just do that, I did some good for today. If I can do anything that is helpful to another soul, man, I'm already one step better. So to that end,
you won if you did that.
Yeah,
totally. I won. I totally won.
It's a great solution to when you're having a bad day too.
Yep.
Because that turns it all around. You feel it all coming back at you. Is there anything that's still hard for you, Kat? So you're practicing. We've agreed it's a daily practice and moment to moment decision. Is there something that's still real hard for you?
Yeah, I'm not patient. And so it's very hard. If I understand a topic really, really well, and I'm not talking to my students who the whole point is for me to know things really well and to play the topic. If I know a topic really well and somebody else thinks they know the topic really well, right? And they probably do, but I don't think they do, right? How do I have the patience to listen to what they are saying so that I can learn? And when, like I mentioned before, if you're not listening, can't learn.
Right.
But when I'm an expert on something, sometimes it's hard to listen to anyone else because I think I know more than everybody else. And that's never true, right? There is always other people who know important things that you could learn from, right? Obviously. And so I think that's hard for me still, that part.
I was hoping you had a solution for that because I suffer from the similar.
Well,
similar.
The solution is to develop more patience, but patience is it's hard.
Yeah. The one that I learned from the book is the curiosity piece of that. I ask a question, and it's part of assuming positive intent. It's assuming that there is something to learn. To your point, and if I ask a question and I appear curious, it definitely helps me in that moment. Rather than being judgmental and kind of like, I already got this. So I practice that every day.
I agree with that. Asking questions is also not confrontational. So can you explain to me why it is you have that view instead of that is ridiculous? Right? See the difference?
Exactly. Even that's what you're thinking. Yeah. That's great.
Beautifully put. So one of the things that I notice about myself is that I get inspired by other people who exude the qualities I like, but they also have accomplished stuff. They've done stuff and they're wonderful people and they're working on themselves. The criteria that we chose to have guests on this podcast are those people like yourself, accomplished people who are wonderful human beings who want to be better people. And I get moved by them. I want to be like them. I want to do what Kathy does that feeling impatient when you're listening to someone who doesn't know as much as you. Excuse me, do you know who I am? I've got that disease that, you know, and I love listening to this because it's going to make me, when I hear that little, all right, get to the point. Actually, you don't know what you're talking about. Voice.
You remember
You know,
Kathy?
yeah, exactly.
We'll have a Kathy on our shoulders.
I will remember Kathy on my
Mhm.
shoulder
Begin.
doing the look. I'm a patent attorney. I know more about this than you'll ever know, and I'm gonna bite my tongue. And it again, I am, and I don't think I'm alone, moved by people. When you see what success looks like, you go, okay, I can do that. I can do what Kathy does. I mean, you're not. This is the images we want. You are not a unicorn. You're not so amazingly different that I can't be like you. I can aspire to be like you in the good qualities that you have and do. And I thank you for coming into our lives.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I thank you for fitting us into your life, your very, very busy life.
Dude, for people who don't know, we wanted to get Kathy on this first series, and she said, "Look, I'm free in first quarter of 24." We said we've taped a bunch. Is there any way you could get an hour free? And boom, she shot back, and boom, here she is. And now we know why you're doing a lot, and yet you still make time to make a difference for people. And I hope you feel our gratitude. So, without further ado, if this is the final thing, the last thing you'll ever say to anybody else in the world who wants to hear from Kathy White, give the world a piece of your wisdom. You can give more than one, but
Well,
offer your 2 cents.
obviously, be the sun, not the salt. One, it's important to not only treat people the way you would like to be treated, but you need to treat people the way they want to be treated. And that was a thing that I had to learn, right? It's really getting to know people well enough to know how they want to be treated. And I still have a lot of work to do here, but it's a journey, and you have to practice, and I have to practice. And I'm hopeful that with this daily, I love picking a day to read this book to remind me how to be and how to be a better person. And every time I read a chapter, I see it differently. I read it differently. So,
Wow.
That's great. Well, I was slightly intimidated by your credentials, by your accomplishments. And Harry said, just you wait. She is just such a gem of a person. And the fact that you've come on with all of this, and yet, despite everything you've already done, there's all this growth that you still want to experience and achieve. And I think that alone has been really inspiring to me. So thank you for that.
oh, thank you.
And you're exactly what I hoped you would be for the world on this podcast, and that people will listen to the next one. They'll think about how to be more patient. They'll pick up the book and use it as a daily reminder and think about what it can do. Ooh, you know what today is? It's show someone you care day.
Right,
okay,
right.
got it.
Right.
Love that. A big, huge hug to you. And from the bottom of our hearts, thank you so
Thanks
much.
so much for inviting me. It was my pleasure.
At Be the Sun, Not the Salt, our mission is to spread this message and make the world a better place. In our podcast, we hope to share stories that nudge each one of us to be our best self. If you heard something today that nudged you, inspired you, we'd love to hear from you. Please email us at stories@bethesunnotthesalt.com. And who knows, we may feature you on an upcoming episode.